What if I told you that a simple traffic stop could change the course of an entire police department? That one tense encounter on a sunlit Sacramento street would set off a chain reaction no one saw coming, not the officer giving the order, and certainly not the man behind the wheel. Because when Officer Bradley Larson pulled over Eric Porter, he thought it was just another driver, just another stop. But he had no idea that the calm, collected man in that sedan carried the one badge that could redefine his future forever. The late afternoon sun hung low over Sacramento, coloring the streets in golden streaks as Eric Porter made his way home from a long day. His sedan purred steadily, a calming hum beneath the soft buzz of the radio. Eric wasn't rushing, he wasn't reckless. He was just tired, ready to shake off the weight of the day. But with a single flash of blue and red lights behind him, his evening changed. Officer Larson stepped out of his cruiser, the swagger of authority in every measured step. He was in his mid-30s, buzz cut neat, uniform sharp, eyes already hardened before he spoke. License and registration. His tone was curt, void of warmth, and Eric complied without a word. This should have been routine, a quick exchange, maybe a warning. But from the second Larson leaned closer, as if sniffing out guilt, the air shifted. It wasn't about the stoplight anymore. It was about something else. Something Larson couldn't quite justify, but also couldn't let go of. "Where are you headed in such a hurry?" Larson asked, suspicion dripping from every word. "I'm just going home," Eric replied evenly, calm, measured. But for Larson, calm was threatening. Eric's stillness, his composure, it wasn't fear, and that unsettled him. He pushed harder, step out of the car. Eric's grip on the steering wheel tightened for a moment, but his face remained neutral. "Is there a specific reason for that, officer?" Larson smirked. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." The command wasn't about safety anymore. It was about power, and Larson wanted Eric to yield. Eric stepped out, taller than Larson, dressed in a sharp-tailored suit, professional, precise. Not the image Larson wanted to see, not the easy narrative he was ready to write. The suit wasn't just clothing, it was identity, control, and it threatened Larson more than he'd ever admit. "Hands where I can see them," Larson barked. "We've had some incidents around here." Eric tilted his head just slightly, locking eyes with Larson. "Incidents involving men in business suits driving home from work, or something else?" The question hit like a punch. Larson's mask of confidence slipped, just for an instant. Suspicion had become something uglier, and Eric knew it. Larson's jaw twitched as he moved closer. Turn around, hands on the hood. Weapon search, a forced pat-down, fast, rough, intrusive. Not protection, domination. But Eric didn't flinch. He didn't resist. He didn't even stiffen up. His silence was louder than words, and it rattled Larson. He didn't find anything, and the absence of evidence only made his insecurity worse. "You seem awfully confident," Larson muttered. Eric finally spoke, his voice cool, unshaken. "Confidence isn't the issue here, officer. Respect is." The words landed sharper than any insult, because they revealed the truth, that Larson craved authority, but what he lacked, and what Eric demanded, was respect. And in that moment, Larson realized he wasn't in control at all. Eric watched him carefully, letting the silence carry its weight. Then, almost casually, he reached into his inside pocket. Larson's hand darted toward his holster, instinct betraying fear, but Eric's movements were deliberate, slow, measured. "I want you to see this," Eric said calmly. His wallet flipped open, revealing a polished badge glinting in the fading light. Eric Porter, Head of Internal Affairs, Sacramento Division. The words froze the air between them. Larson blinked once, then again, searching Eric's face for a joke, for a lie, for some mistake. But the authority in Eric's eyes, the kind Larson pretended to wield, was real. And in that moment, Officer Larson realized he hadn't been in control at all. Eric's voice stayed calm, but every word carried the weight of judgment. Do you know what the most troubling part of this interaction has been, Officer Larson? It's not the profiling, though that's bad enough. It's not the baseless escalation either. It's the fact that you assumed I wouldn't know my rights, that I wouldn't understand the laws you swore to uphold. Larson swallowed hard, his face pale now. The bravado was gone. The badge on his chest suddenly felt heavier, almost crushing. Eric's tone cut sharper. You thought respect had to be taken, but the truth is simple. The badge doesn't put you above anyone. It holds you accountable to everyone. Larson knew right then, this wasn't over. The next morning, Eric Porter wasn't just a driver pulled over on the street. He was back in his office, the office that oversaw police accountability. On his desk sat a file. Officer Bradley Larson. The pages were filled with whispers of misconduct, minor complaints, dismissed reports, accusations that never saw daylight. Nothing big enough to act on, but too many to ignore. Patterns, a history hidden in technicalities. Eric studied it carefully. Larson wasn't a bad apple in isolation. He was a symptom of something larger, a culture that rewarded dominance instead of discipline, silence instead of accountability. It was time that changed. Later that afternoon, Eric Porter sat across from Chief Daniels, a veteran officer with decades behind him. Eric recounted the traffic stop in detail, not exaggerated, not dramatized, just the truth. The chief leaned back in his chair, sighing deeply. This isn't the first time Larson's name has come up, but we've always handled it quietly. Eric's reply was immediate, cutting through the excuse, and that's the problem. Quiet doesn't fix anything. Quiet lets it keep happening. It's time to stop sweeping this under the rug. The room went silent. What are you proposing? The chief finally asked. A department-wide review, Eric answered without hesitation. Not just individuals. The culture, the training, the accountability systems. We can't expect the public's trust if we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard. The chief rubbed his temples. You're going to ruffle feathers with this. Good, Eric said firmly. It's about time someone did. Weeks passed in a storm of hearings, interviews, reports, and community forums. The Larson stop wasn't just an incident anymore. It was evidence. Proof that flaws existed, not just in one man, but in the system that allowed him to thrive. The final decision? Officer Bradley Larson suspended. But Eric knew this wasn't about punishing one man. It was about preventing the next Larson. Slowly, change began. Mandatory accountability sessions, policy reviews, more transparency between the department and the community. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and it started with one stop. Months later, Eric stood on a stage at a community event. A room full of officers, city officials, and residents stared back at him. Justice isn't just about catching the bad guys, Eric said, his voice filling the hall. It's about making sure the people sworn to protect and serve do so with integrity, fairness, and respect for everyone they encounter. That's the badge I believe in, and that's the badge we're building here together. The applause shook the room. Some clapped with relief, some with hope, and some with cautious skepticism. But all of them listened. As Eric stepped off the stage, he knew the journey wasn't over. Change never comes overnight, but it comes one choice at a time, one decision at a time, one person willing to speak up when silence is easier. All it took was one traffic stop, one badge revealed, and one man refusing to back down from what was right. So let me ask you this. If you were pulled over in that moment, would you have had the courage to stand as calmly as Eric Porter did then? Because in that choice lies a lesson we all need to remember. If this story made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories that challenge, inspire, and shed light on the truths we don't always see, make sure to subscribe. Together, we can keep these conversations alive.